Did you know that in the 19th century Brazil, enslaved Africans organized a highly planned urban revolt based on faith, identity, and a fight for freedom? No? It's okay. In 1835, in the city of Salvador, one of the most impressive uprisings in Brazilian history took place. The Malay Revolt. Today, I'm gonna tell you who these people were, why they rebelled, who was in power at the time, and why this story still matters. Come on! Sawabona guys! I'm Sarah, and this is Anauê English. Welcome! Well, to understand the Malay Revolt, we first need to understand what kind of Brazil this happened in, right? In 1835, Brazil didn't have an emperor actually ruling the country. That's wonderful. Dom Pedro I had abdicated the throne in 1831 and returned to Portugal, and his son, Dom Pedro II, was still a child. So the country was governed by regents politicians who ruled temporarily until the emperor came of age. This time became known as the Regency period. And it was one of the most unstable periods in Brazilian history. I swear. Like, we had many rebellions across the country, political disputes among elites, economic crisis, constant fear that the country would break apart. So Brazil was politically fragile, socially violent, and deeply slave-based. Okay? And it is in the context that the Malay Revolt happened. Oh, bless me. Okay, but Sarah, who were they? Who were the Malays? The word Malay comes from Imale. It's a Yoruba term used to refer to Muslim. The Malays were mostly African-born enslaved and freed people, mainly from Yoruba-speaking groups like Nago, Hausa, Ewe, and others from West Africa. And here's something very important. It's like really important that many of them could read and write in Arabic. They practiced Islam, they had networks of solidarity, they had meeting spaces, and a strong community organization. Also, many of them lived under what was called gang slavery. They worked in the streets of Salvador selling goods or providing services, and they gave part of the money to their owners and kept the rest. Are you surprised? Because I'm really not. Okay, but this gave them more freedom to move around the city, more contact with each other, more opportunities to organize politically and religiously. So, for them, it was good. Oh, but why did they rebel? The Malay Revolt was not only against slavery. It was also for religious freedom, for dignity. It was against daily violence, against the forced imposition of Catholicism, against the total dehumanization of Black life. They wanted to destroy symbols of slave power, free imprisoned companions, and take control of the city. So it was a political, religious, and social revolt at the same time. The revolt was organized by a network of African Muslims, many of them freed and literate in Arabic. Among the main names were Pacífico Licutan, known as Bilal, a religious leader, Ahuna, one of the main organizers, Sule or Nicobe, Dasalu or Damalu, Gostar, Luiz Sanin, Manuel Calafate, Elisbão do Carmo, known as Dandará. And these men formed the intellectual, religious, and organizational core of the uprising. The revolt began in the early morning of January 25 of 1835, deliberately chosen because it took place during Ramadan. I'm gonna put here what Ramadan is. And around 600 men took part. For a few hours, the rebels took over the streets of Salvador, attacked military posts, and fought government troops. But the plan was betrayed and partially discovered in advance. The authorities were already somewhat prepared. And after intense fighting, the revolt was brutally crushed. And like I say, in 1935, Brazil was now ruled by regents. There was no emperor actually governing. So later that same year, Father Diogo Antônio Feijó would become the sole regent. But at the time of the revolt, the country was still under unstable provisional governments. In other words, the Brazilian state was fragile but still extremely violent in its repression. After the defeat, many were arrested, many were sentenced to hundreds of lashes, some were executed, and many of them, especially freed people, were deported to Africa for the first time in Brazilian history. And the white elite of Bahia was terrified. But from that point on, religious repression intensified, fear of new rebellions became state policy, so it was But what's the historical significance of this? The Malay Revolt was not an isolated episode. It's a part of a long tradition of Black and African resistance in Brazil, but it's special because it was urban. It was highly organized, it was led by African Muslims, and it left deep marks on the imagination of the slaveholding elite. It proves that enslaved people never accept slavery passively, right? And the Malay Revolt is one of those stories that Brazil tried to hide because it shows that our story is also made of rebellion. It's made of political consciousness and organized struggle. Remembering the Malays means remembering that the freedom was never given. It was always taken. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it so this content can reach more people. Leave a comment below telling me what you think and what topics from Brazilian history you'd like to see next. Bye! See you in next video!